Welcome everyone to the open forum for Microsoft Teams and Office 365, our weekly Q&A session that we're holding just to answer general questions that folks have around Office 365. My name is Nathan Austin with MyTech Partners, and my job is to help our team, help our clients solve business problems when IT can help solve them. IT can't solve all problems, but they can definitely help with some of them. So we've also got Gerald Howland, our CTO here from MyTech. Gerald, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hey, thanks everybody for coming.
So we've got, we always have Gerald along because not only is he very knowledgeable about the operational side of Office 365, but every once in a while we get those technical questions that come through from those that are more administrators of this, and Gerald's definitely one that will do a better job answering those questions than I can. So thanks, Gerald, for joining us. Okay, so we're going to hit really quick on this. Most of us who are on this already know who we are. This is one of our goals, to help you remove IT challenges. That's really what we're here to do, and hopefully try and make IT easy for you. Again, because you're already paying for these tools, if you use them better and we get some of these obstacles out of your way, we hope that you'll be able to achieve 4 times more value and productivity from your IT investments. That's our focus. That's what we try and help you do, because we all have other things to do than worry about IT problems, such as working from home and trying to handle that situation and stay productive. So enough about MyTech. We always like to make that quick, but just so everyone know who we are and what we do. We're just going to go through, just show you how to, as opposed to a how to. We have other sessions that are more prescriptive. But this is really about what can we show you. So we have a list of some items in case there's not, some starter questions from the audience aren't there. But from what I understand, we already have some starter questions. So Stephanie, take it away. Let's ask some questions, and we'll start walking through some how-to in Microsoft Teams and Office 365.
Awesome. So the first question is, can you put just a folder from another team into a Teams page? I can only figure out how to post a full library from another team.
Just a folder. That is a good question. Okay. So I am going to go to Teams. In fact, this is actually something that I had on my list. Is something very similar. So I think what you're trying to say, can you just post maybe a folder here? One of the things that I've been able to do, and I don't know if this is what you mean, but you can add, there's an option here to add cloud storage. And when you click on this, notice it gives you a couple options. SharePoint is one of those. So you should be able to navigate. For instance, you could choose a SharePoint link or navigate to site. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go grab a link from a folder, because I think that's what you're trying to accomplish. So I've already got, of course, I already have SharePoint open here. So I'm going to click into the operations team site. I'm going to go to the documents section and I have, I'm going to just add a new folder just for the sake of doing it, and just say new folder to share, and create that. And then here, notice when you hover over, I should be able to get a link. So I click on that, and I'm just going to hit copy link. So now I've got that. I'm going to go back into my Teams, and I'm going to use SharePoint link. I'm going to paste that link right there. Hit go. And I believe what that should allow me to do, oh, that's interesting. It's documents. Oh, it's asking me to go. Oh, shoot, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Well, there we go. That's why we tried this stuff out. Because I was trying to just share this new folder as opposed to just inside of the documents. So maybe that's what you were talking about. Let me try that again. I'm going to try and copy that link. Let me try another way. Gerald, and by all means, Gerald, if there's another way you think we can do this, please let me know.
Yeah, trying to work that out myself right now.
So I tried to go through, I want to add SharePoint, I want to add a page. Okay, no, that's not what I want. I was hoping I could add a tab. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to remove that. Well, it looks like the answer right now is potentially no. I was trying to add maybe cloud storage, but and you can usually add a link, and that's what I've been typically doing. Is I wanted to share that folder. That's the link that I had shared previously. But yeah, it's not allowing me to like browse to that next. It's not allowing me to do that. So it looks like you're adding the documents, the repository. So yeah, it doesn't look like you can add just an individual folder at this level. I think on the other hand, as a side note, I've done this in chats before. So if I want to add, well, here might be a way to do it. This might be, hold on, this might be kind of, see if I can paste that same folder. So I just shared that new folder to share here by doing it, by not adding it to, let me see if I can do that over here, by not creating a SharePoint storage, but by basically linking it to a web page. So let me see if, so there's a website, and this might be what you're trying to accomplish. New folder to share. Here's the link, save. So that is actually where you can do that. So it looks like the trick is, and again, this is, we learn something new every time we go through this, is that when you are looking to, in the files section, it gives you the option to add cloud storage and select SharePoint there, but that's gonna, it looks like it's looking for a SharePoint repository, which is what we ended up adding, which takes us to the operations team's documents. Whereas another option is, instead of adding cloud storage or selecting SharePoint at the tab, you can actually select a website, which is basically a URL, just a link. And you could select the website link, and that is something that works in not only Teams as a tab there, but it also works in a chat as an option as well. So I think those are your ways to be able to do that. I wish it'd be nice that you could do it right here. That would seem to make a lot of sense, but at the moment that doesn't look like it's a part of the feature set. Good question and challenging one, even though it should be, it seems like it would be easy. Next question, Stephanie.
Awesome. How can I have other departments view my department's team activity without making them a member of my department team?
How can you allow them to view your department's activities without making them a member of your team? I'm not, and if I think about activities, can that person possibly clarify, is that referring to like a planner plan or documents? I guess I'm not really sure what they mean, because if other than there might be ways inside of a plan or in documents to be able to collaborate on that, but otherwise I don't know of a way. If you're not a member of the team, you're not going to see the content or the information that's being shared and collaborated on in that team. Gerald, can you elaborate on that, or any comments?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's the permissions. So Teams permissions are all structured off of a group that gets created when you generate a team. And so by anything that gets tied to that group, so planner plans, items, SharePoint lists, all of that kind of stuff are all controlled off of that group. And there really isn't a guest format. It's all or nothing, essentially.
Yeah, the only thing that I have done, and this might be somewhat of what you're thinking, and Stephanie, if this person has helped clarify their question, please let me know.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, is that I have, for instance, we're in the operations team here, and we're sharing an operations team document. One of the things that I have seen is being able to, for instance, share an all company, like, so let's say there's all company information here, which I don't have any actual data in here. But one of the things that I've seen is that to make it easy for a team, I will share maybe the all company information here, like in another team, for example. So that way, if I'm an operations person and I'm in the files here, I might have a link just like this but to a different site that I also have permission to. So if I have permissions here, if this team also has permissions to this, which an all company site you typically would, you can link and provide multiple places from which to get at the same information by potentially linking it in different teams. So that is one of the ways in which you can do that. But it's not. I don't think that's exactly the question you asked. So we can potentially come back to that unless that's been clarified.
Yeah, I don't see a response that maybe would be clarifying that, but if I see one, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, the next one, a little bit longer question here is, I'm working with 3 companies to collaborate on a project. Is it practical to try and use Teams knowing that guests have limited access available? We would like to be able to hold meetings and share some Word docs for collaboration. You went over inviting people from outside the company last week to a Teams meeting, but what about the rest of the collaboration? Is there the need to use Azure AD to set this up?
Well, so I'll give Gerald. I'm going to give Gerald a heads up that I'm going to ask him to answer this one, but I will. And short answer is you can do this at a team level. You can permission a team to also be externally available. So, for instance, we actually have this with a couple of our vendors. Our Microsoft group that we work with, we have a team that we can connect to with our one of our security vendors. And we also have a team that we share with one of our peers in town. For instance, when we collaborated on Tech Pulse, which unfortunately is not happening this year, but we actually used Teams to share, and we actually shared them as a guest. There are some idiosyncrasies to how you navigate back and forth. You know, what ends up happening is that up here, which I don't have any external teams at the moment that I'm able to see because I'm not a part of them in this tenant, because this is a demo tenant that we use. But what I would see is I would have a little drop down up next to my name up here, and I could choose join the other group's tenant, and then what it would do is it would show me, it would log me into that other tenant, and then it would have all the same features and functionality that the owner of that tenant would permission. So you have to permission it in such a way. But so Gerald, can you talk a little bit about like some of the back end pieces of that, of how do you do that, and just how to be prescriptive about that?
Yeah, so that is a function of guest accounts, which will be basically they're an unlicensed user essentially in your environment, but does have access to the structures, to some of the data, to whatever you permission them to have. So Nate, if you'd be nice enough to go to manage team, you can actually go to members and guests. So you can actually say what a member or guest can do. If you go to settings, you would actually be able to see what guest permissions. You can actually say what guests are allowed to do, whether or not they're allowed to modify channels at an admin level in the background. So at the high level side of things in the administration interface, you can actually control whether or not they can access files, whether or not they can access teams, or if they can message with other members of your team. But overall, you could create a series of guest accounts in there, inviting those people in and getting access to collaboration tools and features from that point. So there are restrictions as to what they can do. They don't get an office license, they don't have email, they don't have anything like that, but they can collaborate on documents using the online tools.
So Gerald, I think, thank you for that. I think the other thing, for instance, I tried to add me as a member of my tech versus me as a member of this demo tenant, and it's not allowing me to do that because I think that's a back-end administrative permission that has to be set first before you can add external resources. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so there is an administration function that needs to be done in the background to enable the ability to have guest accounts. And then there is kind of a sequence, and I know I have a document on how to do it that we can get you that lists how to basically invite a guest into the platform.
So good, thank you. I knew that there was some back-end work that once that has been set, then all the capabilities are enabled to be able to manage the team otherwise. So yeah, great question, and that is and it does work. We've done it, and it actually works really well. But you do have to get it set up in the back end. And if you need help with that, by all means, give us a shout, and we can help you.
Awesome. So I think I might have some clarification from the previous question
Great.
saying how can you add a guest user to a team and channel, and what access would they have to view, edit, etc.?
A guest user, so I'm going to assume for the sake of that, and Gerald, I'll hand it over to you, but I'm going to assume for the sake of that the guest user means not a part of your organization. But I don't know if that didn't sound like that was congruent or in line with the first part of the question. So so maybe Gerald, you could talk about guest users as you just described as part of outside of the organization, because I think that's part of where the setting here is.
Yep. So a guest user is an external user. It's somebody that's outside of your organization. So they would not already have an account to your team's environment. If they have an account into your team's environment, then they are a member, or would be considered a member if they have that kind of thing. So if they have an actual email address or user account that they have, then they can be considered a member or owner of a team. But a guest account has to be external to your network.
Yeah, and I think the other question then too, if the guest that they're talking about is actually an internal resource, this is where you can set the member permissions. So you click on the breadcrumbs here, you say manage team, and then you can click on the settings tab under member permissions. You can choose what members can actually do in the team if they're not an owner. Again, if you're thinking about members, you've got by default you've got owners and members, and then so it's in the settings that you can choose what members can do, which you have a lot more options than if you have what guests can do. The problem is, and I think that what this person might be asking is that you're either a member or an owner or not, as opposed to saying, hey, I want this specific member to not be able to do a couple things. This applies to all members of that team. One of the things that and I don't know, another thing that I know we have done internally that kind of is tangential to this conversation is that we've actually, so for instance, Stephanie and I were part of a lot of the marketing initiatives and how we communicate with our clients in the community. And so we actually have a planner plan that is, I'll just pull up action items just for illustration. We have a planner plan that primarily only Stephanie and I use. That's just assigned to us. However, as far as people that have access to this plan, we've definitely added additional members here just to give visibility. So those people that have visibility could technically add tasks or click on and complete tasks and things like that. But in general, we've added certain people in our organization to a plan to our marketing group for visibility. So that's something you could do as well. It's just that right now you're limited on the restrictions that you can potentially apply to what they can do, because they might be a member of the team just so they have visibility, but you wouldn't be able to like deny what they could do inside of the team. Because I think that was the nature of the question. So we can also take that offline if we need to ask more, because I think this might get a little more detailed that would be helpful. So Stephanie, other questions?
Yeah, how do you share multiple screens in Teams?
Gerald, I think the answer is you can't. So can you elaborate on that? Or just say, yes, that's correct?
That is correct. Unfortunately, you can select what screen you want to share, but you can't share both screens at the same time.
Right.
That's currently a limitation of Teams. There are some discussions to update that, but I don't know what the ETA of that at this point in time is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you, Gerald. And sorry for the bad news.
All right. So then the next question is it possible to pop out this live event from Teams so that I can have it on one monitor and continue to work within Teams on my other monitor?
Actually, so what I might suggest is open up Teams in the browser. You could join this live event from the browser, for example, if you choose. And then you could also have Teams open, that's interesting, open as an app and be able to navigate it. So either way, that's actually something that we found out when the first session, someone wanted to ask me, well, how do you pin images, or how do you start a meeting? So we ended up seeing if we could do it, so and it didn't cause any conflict, and it doesn't. So for instance, I'm in a call right now in my Teams app. So as you can see, this is Stephanie. You see this at the bottom of the screen, but I can actually, in my browser, I could actually go ahead and start another meeting. I'll just go ahead and click, test meeting in browser. Click meet now. So actually, I'm now starting a meeting in my browser here. Now no one's joining. You'll see this little indicator here. I'll click over to my Teams app. You'll see the same indicator here. If I joined it from the app, it would put this event on hold, or it would put me on hold in the event. Excuse me for that, hitting that. But yeah, you're able to definitely use the browser window as well. And especially if you're using if you're on Windows 10 and you have the new, is it called Chromium? Is that how you say it?
It's technically Microsoft Edge, but it's the new version of Edge, which is based upon Chromium.
Gotcha. There you go. Thank you. I was like, I didn't think it'd be actually called Chromium since it's a Microsoft product, but the new Microsoft Edge, if it has this icon, actually I have not noticed any degradation of services or feature set in the browser as of yet, as far as what you can do compared to like Internet Explorer or Chrome or the other browsers. Not that there's a problem with Chrome. Chrome does a great job with it too. So, so that's an illustration. You can, if you want to, you can actually use the browser of Teams as well as the Teams app, and they're both very full functional.
So I will add that there is a feature that is in the release plan, so it's basically going through QA right now, that will give the ability to pop out screens from the Teams client. Mm-hmm. So both a meeting and even to have multiple chat windows open at the same time. So it is in the near future that we will be seeing that.
Very cool. Yeah, I can totally see how that'd be beneficial. Next question.
There's no new questions right now, so if you have something you'd like to cover. Yes,
I do. So I have a whole list. We'll just kind of go through them, and by all means, please add questions. Definitely want to, hopefully some things we'll go through, we'll add that. So I want to go through really quick the creation of a channel, just to illustrate it. So notice there's a private channel here. I'm going to go to the finance team. And when you click on the breadcrumbs here, you can add a channel. And only if you're the owner of the channel will you be able to actually add a private channel. But one of the reasons why I like to illustrate this is because people have asked us before, can I change a channel to be private after it's made? And the answer is no, at least at the moment. So when you're creating a channel, you have this option of saying standard, meaning accessible to everyone on the team, because a channel is a subset of a team. And so by default, everyone on the team has access. Or do I want to make it private? And that's when you can select private. When I click next, it's actually going to create the channel. So be careful when you click next, it creates the channel. And now it gives me the opportunity to add people to that channel. I'm actually going to try and add Stephanie. I'm guessing it will not let me because Stephanie is not currently a member of the finance team. So let me, yeah, see, it's not allowing me to add Stephanie to this, but I should be able to add Gerald because I have added Gerald is a member of the finance team. So I've now added Gerald as a member. I could also choose to have Gerald as an owner. I get to choose that because I created it. And now we have a private channel that has a lock. And as a reminder, if you're not a member of the private channel, you will not see it and you will not see the lock there either. So that's just one quick way to be able to add a private channel. An example of where you might use that is you might use the private channel in the finance team to collaborate on documents where you don't want them into production yet. So maybe you have a master version that you iterate from, and when you're ready to move the documents from the private collaborative section to move them into the general channel because you now want to move them into production for everyone to be able to use, that is one example of why you might use a private channel to collaborate inside of your team. So that's just something that I like to illustrate as it's a relatively new feature in Teams in the last 6 months. Any questions have come out of that yet, Stephanie?
No, but it was funny the second you started asking that, somebody asked that. That was the question that came across.
Oh, okay. Very good.
I'm sorry, there is one. One just popped in.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look here. I would like everyone in my company to view a channel in my department. Does this mean I have to make everyone a team member?
Yes. Gerald, I think that's correct.
Yes, unfortunately it is. You have to, security flows down, so you need to have it at the top level in order to gain access to anything below it. So yes, you would have to be a member. Even if you had a private channel, in order to have access to that private channel, you have to have access to the team also.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why, and Gerald and myself, we actually are working on an initiative inside of MyTech this year to take what we learned now about Teams, because we started using Teams, pretty early on in its launch, as you might expect. And there are things that we've done where we've created some sprawl, and that we want to rethink how things are done. So, that's definitely something that where while setting up and creating teams and channels is really easy, thinking through it from a strategic perspective as far as what are the pros and cons, and how you might choose to set it up, or what are we seeing in other organizations as far as how they use teams. By all means, if you're struggling with this, set up a call to chat with us, and we'd be happy to kind of walk you through, not telling you what you should do, but talking you through the different ways in which you can do it so that you can make an informed decision about what makes sense and what fits you the best. So by all means, reach out. We'd be happy to jump on a conversation and help with that.
Awesome. And Nate, just some clarification. An attendee is still a little unclear on how to add an external guest. I don't know if we went through that too fast, or if that's something we should take offline. Yeah,
so I think to start to, if you're going to add a guest to a team, part of the reason why I couldn't show it, and it doesn't surprise me that there's confusion, so I really appreciate you chiming in and asking that question or asking for clarity, is that first and foremost, your tenant, your administrative environment, you have to designate and allow at an administrative level the ability to add guests. So, because by default, I believe this is correct, and Gerald, correct me if I'm wrong, by default, it's restricted, so you do not have that permission. It locks that down, so you don't do that, so that you don't accidentally do that. So if you want to do that, you have to first make an administrative change to be able to allow, say, for instance, the finance team to be shared externally. From there, you can add external guests. So the first step is administrative, that's behind the scenes, which I would recommend you either work with an internal IT person or us. We can help you with that. That's not hard to do. It's tricky, and you want to do it accurately. And then once you do that, you can then manage the team, and you can add members, and you can choose whether or not they're going to be. You'll be able to add guests. Gerald, anything to add to that?
Nope, that's very much the case. It is an administrative action that needs to be completed in the back end of the system first. By default, it is denied. So external sharing and guest-wide sharing is denied, but this does provide that access once you enable it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, Stephanie?
Yep, another question. Is it possible to merge two teams? I just found out about channels, which could serve that purpose. I need instead of two teams that are already created.
Gerald?
No.
Yeah.
I feel bad about this. No, unfortunately, there is not a way to combine teams. And unfortunately, there's not even an easy way to like export and import that data or anything like that. This is one of the hard points of the process.
Yeah. So there, I mean, there is some manual things you could do, but to be able to move things together, right? Choose which one, add a channel, there's some manual work that you could do to make that happen. But as far as all the history and the chat and the conversation, yeah, Gerald, I don't, is there even a way to do it? Because I mean, the documents you can move, but like all the conversations and things like that, I mean, is that able to be exported and moved?
So there are some back-end API functions that I believe have the capability of migrating the data, but I don't know that you would they're mostly designed for moving between tenants. So if you're merging companies, I don't know if there's anything to do functions where you would actually be merging teams into a single team. I don't know of anything that's going to do that offhand.
Okay. Yeah, good question. I hadn't been asked that before. Any other questions?
Yep. Another one here. Say you're not the administrator, but still handle some of these functions. Would you be able to create a team and select another owner, then remove yourself as the owner so you don't belong to the team?
Yes. In fact, one of the things that we recommend as kind of a public service announcement is that if you haven't already heard this message, hear it now, is that we recommend that the ability to create a team is restricted to as few as number as feasible in your organization. Very specifically, so you don't run into people creating teams that are not in alignment with your organizational operation and structure. Your teams should reflect, in general, for instance, all company, you typically have departments like we're showing here, and then there's probably cross-functional teams that you might have, but you don't, again, in our opinion, we recommend that you don't just have anyone be able to create a team, because you could have the team sprawl, which was kind of part of the problem of the last question that was asked, is maybe being able to merge teams in the future. So if you have the ability to create a team and you're one of those people in the organization that has that access, you can create a team, and then you could assign, when you go into manage team, you could assign, so for instance, right now I've got Gerald and Stephanie are members. So let's say I was the one that created it. I could assign Gerald as an owner, and as that saves, then I could either move myself to a member, or I could probably remove myself entirely. So you can do that. Gerald, any comments on that?
Nope, that's 100% the case that I'm aware of. I think removing yourself is a little bit more difficult. I think you actually have to move yourself to a member, and then you can remove yourself.
Yeah. And then I think I can. No,
maybe
I'm
not.
Able to.
I know
now that I'm a member, I can't do it because I'm a member. You could do it because you're the owner, but I can't do it as a member. Yep.
Yeah, so the owner could do it then. So I could remove him from that process by going into the cross-functional team. I'm just doing this on my screen right now, managing the team, and I would be able to go into Nate and remove his access right now. In which case, Nate has lost his access to that.
Now I don't have access.
So
yes, you can do that.
But it would have to be the new owner that would have to take him out.
Yep. Yeah, or as an administrator, can you do that? I don't know. But either way, there is a way to do it. But yeah, we do recommend that there's at least some sort of thought process and intentionality around creating a team, so that you don't run into sprawl and confusion as far as the purpose.
Yeah.
So good question.
And if you have access to the administration consoles, the administration console outside of the Teams interface does have the ability to manage, and like you can revoke your own rights and all that kind of stuff also.
All right. Well, I know we're over our time, but again, since this is a Q&A, we'll just keep going as long as there's questions coming. But I also want to acknowledge that we said this is 30 minutes. So those of you who need to jump off due to schedules, by all means, thank you very much for attending. We hope that you can just, it's the idea is let's just answer some of these questions that we all have so we can just use these tools better. So with that said, thank you very much. And by all means, please stay safe and healthy this weekend and into the coming weeks. Join us for future sessions. We've got every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're hosting sessions through at least through the end of April. So join us and welcome your team members, because we're hoping that this can benefit your team members as well as the leaders and management of the organization. But with that said, let's go ahead and keep going on the Q&A. But thank you for those who need to drop off. Thanks for attending.
All right, I just have one more right now. It's can you have more than one administrator?
Yes. Short answer. Yeah, you can. Again, we that's something that we recommend. We lock that down by default on your behalf so you don't get sprawl, but we want to have that conversation so that you can designate one or more people in your organization with that ability, so that they're a go-to person to collaborate with and to kind of authorize the creation of those and to help you set those up, because they've either gone through sessions like this or they've been educated, they've gone through some of our other training sessions that we've done to help them know how to help do that.
Awesome.
You can also, just in case this was to offer a little more clarity, you can also have more than one owner to a team also.
That's
So
true.
beyond just administration of creating teams, you can also have more than one owner that actually has ownership and capabilities of managing all that in a team.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and that was something that I learned here, Gerald, is I didn't realize when you say manage a team and go to settings, I didn't realize you had all of this ability to identify what members could or could not do, as far as, like, for instance, creating private channels or adding or removing apps, or deleting messages, or adding or removing tabs. Like, I did not this is something I learned today. I didn't realize that this section was here. So if you're an owner of the team, you can choose what members can do, and that is because when you create a channel or a team, you can, like, for instance, I'll go and create a team. I'll just, you can choose, is it private, public, or organization wide? Like, are there things that you can do here? Which gives you there's some wide permissions that happen when you create one. Like, anyone in your organization can join, or do you have to add people to join, or organization wide is everyone by default is joined. So you can choose these here, but I did not realize that when you're in managing a team, that if you want to update what members can do now that they're part of a team, you can get a little bit more granular in those permissions. So that was a good lesson that I learned here today.
Yeah, so one of the other things that I like to point out is if you scroll down in that, there's also the fun stuff section, where you can actually disable features that are also included. So the Giphy, the stickers and memes, all that kind of stuff, you can disable that. So if you have like an all company channel, you want to control who's doing what inside there. Like we have a special one to deal with the COVID response. We need to keep that fairly professional and clean. So we've disabled a lot of those functions inside the team.
Interesting. I didn't know that either. Very cool. All right. Any other questions so far, Stephanie?
No further questions.
All right. Well, I've got a long list, but we'll save those for next time. So thank you, everyone who attended. Again, just want to say, Gerald and I and Stephanie, we appreciate your time, and we hope that these are helping you navigate working remotely during these times. And by all means, we'll send a follow-up email with our sessions that we have posted for next week, and we're going to be uploading here in the next, probably by Monday, some sessions for the following week as well. But next week is about one-on-ones. As well as how to run different ways to run team meetings, 5 different ways to run team meetings, choosing the right one for your purpose. So please join us next week. But for now, stay safe and stay healthy.